Hi everyone, Paddy here. Just a quick one to let you know the audio is not going to be quite as crisp this time. We had to record over Skype as we had some issues, so the audio won't be as buttery smooth as you're used to, but I assure you, the chat, it is buttery smooth.
I had a day off today, was pottering about flat a bit, and I thought, I'm going to get swish new stylings. I went to the stylist, took in a picture of a man in a smoking jacket, cravat, an illustration of himself behind him, and said, give me a look that will make this man angry. To which she said, you want YouTube hair? And I said, yes. The lady wasn't much for talking, all concentration and finesse, and at the end of it, I have hair of wonderment, and yet in the moments of still, of quiet, I can hear it whisper. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Welcome to the Humanities, episode 46, the Ubisoft conference, where I am joined as ever by the veritable Patrick Stardust.
YouTuber!
And the veritably delicious James Carter is joining us as guest.
YouTube here?
Yes. So,
you did that on purpose, didn't you?
From Ubisoft to YouTube to Ubisoft to YouTube to me to you to Mario and Rabbids kicking off the show. A game that people had very, very, very low expectations of, and it was interesting in a second run through I watched of this show to see people's reactions go from sneering right from the start of the show to being taken aback by the level of heart and the wonderment and then the complexities of the game and the jokes and the giggles and just seeing the way that people, including hashtag Don't Cry Ubisoft Man, who got a t-shirt of himself crying today, which was quite interesting. And then Miyamoto on stage, and then the producer, and then just a really detailed, wonderful gameplay reveal. What a start.
It was like the Midnight Resistance rumour generator had achieved sentience, isn't it?
This was true. I think they even put something up with regards to that. And the
Mario
twist.
and Rabbids are crossing over, and the twist, it's an XCOM game!
Yeah, who knew? And wow, taking it back.
What a start. And I think having Miyamoto turn up on stage, it was a bit cringe, but I actually found it really endearing and so much more entertaining than Bethesda's show, which was here's 12 trailers in a row. Like, get people on stage, make us laugh.
It was Ubisoft cringe, though, wasn't it? I mean, we all know that Ubisoft have a habit of being slightly cringy, but in a fun and it comes from a genuine place kind of way.
Le cringe.
I don't think it came across to me as Ubisoft cringe. It came across as kind of a little bit sort of nerdy gamer nerd. And I came across like with a real sincerity. And I thought the only bit where I could kind of raise an eyebrow was the bit where Miyamoto said, I have many figures of the Rabbids on my shelves. And that was the bit where I kind of went... But the rest of it was...
no, you don't.
The rest, I love the stuff with the guns, and it just seemed... It didn't seem kind of awkward or forced particularly, and if there was sort of a level of... it was done with like quite a knowing smile. I really like that, as if they were going like, oh, what if we had guns made? Wouldn't that be silly?
Yeah.
And we could point them at each other.
Pretended to have a gunfight on stage. Yeah, of course. Perfect.
I think
might
the
have
talking...
written...
Oh, after you.
No, go ahead.
I think the talking went on probably a little bit long.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to see the game. I remember writing, I want to see the game now, please, on my notes. So I think the talking went on a little bit long, but that could just be me being an impatient fuck.
But you got, I mean, even after the Miyamoto stuff, you got the producer Xavier, who was basically came on stage and said that we've been working on this for 3+ years, and I don't know, everybody just seemed to have their heart all over it, and it genuinely, I think it stopped a lot of people in their tracks when they cut to the audience and you saw the chap with the beard with he was just so proud that he was clearly working with somebody that had influenced him as a child, and this was the big moment, and even seeing everything come together on stage before the anticipation of the big reveal took me back, and I oftentimes I can get tears in my eyes looking at people with tears in their eyes, especially when it's this genuine and stuff. James, you were saying so?
I might have written an open letter about this game.
Okay.
May I read it?
You certainly may.
So basically, if you saw, because this leaked a couple of weeks beforehand, it had been rumoured for a few months beforehand by the wonderful Laura K. Dale, Laura K. Buzz on Twitter, who took a lot of stick for leaking this rumour of a game that everyone insisted didn't exist. But there was a leaked piece of artwork, essentially a cover shot from what would become the sort of cover art for the game, or the main screen for the game. And if you saw that and thought, Mario plus Rabbids, that's not for me, or anything on the more positive side of the scale as a reaction to that, pat yourself on the back, grab a cuppa, we're going to be here a while, I'll see you in a couple of minutes, yeah? Dear Joe Internet, I know you needed to meme and outrage on Twitter, and that need had to be sated. I know that you don't like Rabbids, maybe you even hate fictional characters designed to please children and sell video games. You were ready to protect Mario at all costs, like the gatekeeper that Nintendo needed you to be. You'll keep him safe from Rabbids and from playing with guns, but where were you when Jumpman put on a doctor's coat and played pill puzzles with Jump Mum and Jump Dad's pharmaceutical stash? Or when he nabbed the keys to the Mario family car, took up karting, or when he abandoned runny jumpy pursuits in favour of golf, tennis, baseball, football, pinball, role-playing, or being made out of paper, or when he got smashed with his friends, or joined arch-nemesis Sonic at the Beijing Olympics, all of which, might I add, whether to your tastes or not, were successes, and did not result in the end of the world or even the demise of Mario. I know to you, rabbits are a step too far. You've drawn the line and now Ubisoft are crossing over it. But did you consider that if Mario and Sonic at the Olympics wasn't for you, then maybe this isn't either? Maybe it's okay that not all Mario games are made specifically for you? If your doubts in Nintendo turned out to be unfounded when Mario Kart or any of the other games bearing the Italian plumber's name and visage were released, and didn't signal the end of Mario as Jumpman, then why not have a little faith in Nintendo now? Even if you don't think you can trust Ubisoft, Nintendo do, and you really can't be suggesting that your instincts are to be trusted more than theirs when it comes to Mario. I say this with the most genuine intent. Instead of gatekeeping Mario, how about you gatekeep your own mouth and fingers to save us all from whatever bile-fueled nonsense might slip out next time. Lots of love, James Carter.
That was great.
Unbelievable.
That was, as they say on the internet, that was straight fire.
It's unbelievable, wasn't it? That leak. It's like, fair enough, that's a surprising thing to happen. I get it. Rabbids aren't loved. They are essentially the minions of the video game.
Do you think it was people reacting because they were upset that they were turned on by the rabbit dressed as Princess Peach?
I think a lot of it was, a lot of the people that will look at it, at anything like this and sneer, will be people that wouldn't go near Nintendo in a million years anyway.
It's just bizarre. It just felt like when that leak happened, and maybe I'm making more of it than there was, maybe it was just healthy, hearty skepticism, and some people just changed their tune when they saw what the game was, but it really felt like there were a lot of people saying, no, not this is not happening to my Mario.
Okay,
Mario.
It's not
your Mario.
I'm going to put on my Joe Internet hat then for a second.
Oh,
sure, go for it.
I'm going to try and get in the mind of Joe Internet.
Yeah.
It must be racist. I don't like women.
Don't look to your left. There's a man with YouTube hair.
Ah!
YouTube's over there. Hi, Pad.
Yeah. To play the devil's to Joe Internet, right? So, I think
Joe Advocate. Yeah.
Joe Advocate.
Devil's Internet.
By Keanu Reeves. The minions don't inspire much good faith in me. Did I call them minions? I just skipped past my point there. The rabbits are the minions of video games.
Yep, I think that's fair. I think they've engendered a lot of the same reaction.
Yep, infuriating mascot characters that go blah at the screen, and that's supposed to be funny.
Pratfalling and Simlish versions of
So my initial gut reaction is when I see a rabbit. I used to think they were quite funny, and the joke has long since worn out for me now, as it should do. You know, a rabbit that goes every now and again. You know, that has a limited shelf life. But then again, I did see a GIF earlier today of the rabbit that looks like Donkey Kong picking up the rabbit that looks like Princess Peach and wiping his arse with her.
Exactly.
And I mean, like, well, okay, all right. Even someone who doesn't like rabbits has got to think, well, do you know what? Fine. She's getting her face full of rabbit Kong arse.
But even that Princess Peach, when you saw her sort of walk up to proper Princess Peach and just sort of look at her dress and sort of sneer, or the bit where she was part of a combo later on and she just starts taking selfies and she's flying through the air. There's a lot of character there, but what a way to turn things around. And I wonder sort of how many people that were involved in it were kind of, we know what we've got.
Yeah, wait till you see it.
Yeah, I mean because that initial reveal was like, that's gonna be a party game, isn't it? That's gonna be a mini game collection. Oh boy, here we go.
Yeah,
because you couldn't move for mini game collections on the Wii, for instance, and they were all turgid nightmares.
Well, even when we just saw the Roomba, which I believe is called Tutorial.
Yeah, what was up with the Roomba? We couldn't work that out. Yeah. Was it just they needed a default character to follow, and maybe you can dress the Roomba up?
Presume it is an established character because one of the streams that I watched sort of knew it. But even when we were watching that, we were like, okay. And then you got to the combat, and they started showing some of the combos and the amount of character that was there and the amount of variations, and that's fun. I'd be really interested to see. Because we've got a lot of the stuff that I'm seeing on Twitter, like the most amount of fun is seeing like kids sitting in front of it, like each with a Joy-Con and like two playing games, and mums and dads with their kids sort of playing together.
Yeah,
I'd be really interested to see, like, say John Denton and his lad like sit down and try and figure out where they were going to hide and where they were going to jump from, and watching his like little boy giggle and stuff, and
for sure. That's
going to be great because you've got a mixture of kind of silliness, like cleverness and learning, all sort of coming in together, and it's that to me is a real interest. I'm quite curious about that.
Yeah, I agree, and I think, to be fair, there were a lot of people who had what I would describe as healthy skepticism when they saw that first image was leaked. Like, it was a week or two before, wasn't it? Before the E3 conference, and then saw what the game actually was and thought, oh well, yeah, okay, no, fair enough. And it's like, well, where was the benefit of the doubt when that leak happened? If your reaction was, oh, not sure, Rabbids and Mario mix, where was the, well, let's wait and see what they actually do with it or what the game is?
I think a lot of the consternation came from the design document or the marketing document that was there, which seemed sort of very advertising buzzwords and sort of cynical, and
of course it did, because that's the sort of thing that you send out to investors or to shareholders or whatever to convince them that what you're doing is a good idea. Apparently Ubisoft have been trying to get Nintendo, to make a joint game like this for years. And to be fair to Ubisoft, they have, albeit only initially and albeit not always with great success, but they have always supported Nintendo consoles. On the Wii, there were plenty of Ubisoft games for the first year or two.
Well, there was a Wii game on this very conference.
Yeah.
With Just Dance. Coming out
absolutely.
On the original
Massive
Wii.
Success on that,
Do you know what I think my biggest problem with this game is I don't like the title. Mario plus Rabbids Kingdom Battle. That doesn't roll off the tongue, does it?
No.
I don't know.
People will just call it Mario and Rabbids, won't
Mario
they?
and Rabbids,
the plus. I think the plus is the part that annoys me.
Yeah, they wouldn't do.
So
that has to be something that's gone through both of their PR and marketing departments and decided how they can best represent those characters. It's like with the credits in a film. You get the and the with and the star, whoever leads the credits and whoever gets the extra words, and you actually have to, essentially ask for those. It's the same thing here.
Yeah.
They want to make sure verses might have sounded too confrontational, and or with maybe they weren't happy with, so plus, for whatever reason, that's what they went with, stylistically or for marketing. I agree, it doesn't necessarily trip off the tongue, but
smacks a bit of those psychopaths who call the X button the cross button on a controller. What's fucking wrong with you, boy? The cross button.
To be fair, that's Japanese influence because X is cross.
X. Just say X.
Sure, but in Japan it's cross.
Well,
do you mean
you're
the kiss?
wrong.
Do you mean the kiss button? So I'll go with Pad first on this. What did you think when they started showing off the combat?
I think that looked really cool. Like the stuff in between was like cool, running around, fine. Like they're running around. Hang on, what's this grid now? I've just been playing XCOM recently and got massive shades of that immediately. I like that they're infusing it with its own personality as well. Like the running and the sliding and the jumping off each other. Like that's a move ripped straight out of Chroma Squad. That's something you can do on there. It's called teamwork move, so you can run and kind of do a cool flip off your friend. And it seems to be another version or extension of that. Like I like that the motion seems quite fast, quite fluid. Like you seem to have a good range that you can do on your turn. Because that's the worry sometimes with strategy games is if you've got like very limited moves that you can only move 3 or 4 spaces at a time. Whereas these guys are like running across the entire map on each turn, which is awesome because that means that the battles will be more dynamic, be more bouncy. I think the gameplay looks just solid. Like I'm very into the gameplay. Like that'll be my. I don't know. It's like XCOM Lite, maybe. I don't know. I'd like to see how the leveling up system works. I'd like to see can you gear up, or is it different characters and do the characters level up? I didn't see that bit particularly. But that'd be kind of fun, just to see what kind of characters you could use as well. Will there be a Bowser Rabbit?
Well, it's weird because you say XCOM Lite, but the more that vid went along, the more complicated it seemed to get, the more weapons seemed to get involved, the more characters that seem to come in. It's probably going to do that Nintendo thing where it's just going to build and build and build, and probably chuck in an idea which it only uses once, which is brilliant, and then moves on to the next.
Yeah.
So, James?
I think it's fair to say that Nintendo have a history of, especially recently actually, with stuff like ARMS and Splatoon, of taking genres that they haven't necessarily been, although ARMS fighting game, they have had Smash, but it's kind of different. But Splatoon, for example, is their take on a shooter, arena team-based shooter, and they put their own spin on it and changed it, and it's not quite the same. Whereas this is Ubisoft, so it looked a little bit like the UI for moving around with the grid and highlighting where you're moving to looked straight out of XCOM, which isn't necessarily a criticism. It's just it looks more like it's a direct homage or lift from, or using that as a template, which is fine. But I really like the idea. I said when we talked about XCOM 2 or the expansion to XCOM 2 that I'd kind of passed over XCOM 2 based on my previous feelings, and watching that expansion announcement, I sort of was reminded that multiple people have said XCOM 2 improves a lot on the first one, and maybe I should go back to it. And I saw this and thought, you know what? I'm not going to play this and XCOM 2, and frankly, it's this. And that's that's not throwing shade at XCOM, but it's like my not buying their game makes any difference to them. But no, not at all. It's just that this looks like fun. Play it on the Switch, which seems a great place for a strategy game. And by the way, if they're making a Mario strategy game, what a great way to get kids, and hopefully if they get the difficulty curve right as well, and the AI right, and maybe don't have you die when it doesn't really feel like you should, like XCOM was kind of always guilty of. Percentages that seem not really reflective of how often you end up actually hitting the shot. And it gets kids involved in strategy games, which is a pretty tough thing, tough ask, I think, these days.
I mean, Nintendo have nibbled at that a little bit previously with Pikmin.
Pikmin's always been that kind of way, yeah. Although this is more, I guess, more aggressive strategy. Pikmin 3 is the only one I played, and I kind of found I could switch off from that for the most part until the very last level, when suddenly it felt like I needed to use a lot of skills that I hadn't really been prepared for. That's just my take on it, but that felt like exploration-based strategy and uncovering the map and gathering resources, where this is going to be much more combat-focused. And if you make a wrong move, maybe you'll end up with your team wiped or whatever, if it's anything like XCOM. And if Ubisoft are going to make it, yeah, okay, maybe some people would prefer they didn't put rabbits in it, but actually having seen that intro, yeah, sure, if it means that we all get to have a laugh and enjoy a strategy game that's, as I say, a game that I might have shied away from if it was XCOM 2 or just not got around to, and this is enticing me in, then I can only imagine what that does for kids. And again, that doesn't mean all kids are going to love it. It doesn't mean all parents are going to be able to put up with the rabbits, but this just looked like a great idea to me in many ways, and something I'm really interested in, obviously.
It's going to keep young and old occupied on long journeys, I think.
Yeah, definitely. I hope so. Yeah,
definitely.
Because it was interesting that they went, they had that little bit of a talk about it, and then they put in a sort of final trailer afterwards with what sounded like AC/DC on the top, and it was great. It was really funny. So, 2 thumbs fresh from me.
Before we move on, the stage for Ubisoft I thought was simple this year. Sharp angles, very small, very simple.
Corner.
It was more personal show this year, I thought. And something else that I noticed at the start. So the new Ubisoft, or the old Ubisoft logo that looks a bit shit now. They've just made it a bit blocky. I don't understand why. So the new Ubisoft logo, they had a quick flourish of the Ubi logo and a bunch of different versions of it. Like there was a spangly, dusty version, there was a snowy version, there was a lightning version. I'm pretty sure every single one of those versions was a game that came up in this show.
Yes.
Because I was writing them down as they were coming up. I just thought that was cool. This is all the things we're going to see. Here's some secret hints. Ooh.
And maybe if you'd been quick enough or spent your time watching that instead of the conference, you could have worked out what was coming anyway. Yeah.
So we had another slice of Assassin's Creed Origins, this time with kind of a big flourishing song trailer, and then a strange off-screen view advertising
what
30
was
minutes.
Up with that?
I think something went wrong technically at that point, and they just had to kind of. Because it's a bad decision if it was. It
felt like
one.
They just wanted to do like EA did and say we're going to have 30-minute demo of the game afterwards, and they decided to use the people doing that to introduce it. But I don't know why we got a shot of the screen instead of a shot of them just saying, "Hey, we're here with your man. Come back, wait after the show, and you'll get to see live gameplay explained by the director of the game."
Thing is, if this was a choice, that TV was so small. What a tiny TV.
Yeah, that's why I don't think it was. I just think that something cocked up, and they because they could have gone picture in picture or whatever, but something.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I think they did always intend to go to that afterwards, but maybe for whatever reason they couldn't cut to the feed from that screen at that particular moment, so they ended up just sticking a camera over their shoulders and showing that instead. Maybe.
What did we think to this trailer?
I would say more of the same. I still have some reservations about some of the. It sounds like such a petty thing to pick on, but some of the way it looked in terms of animations seemed a bit. I'm sliding along the groundish. There seemed like they lacked a bit of weight.
Most of this seemed to be kind of more CGI and sort of showing the lands and lions fighting things, and it seemed to be very, very epic in scope, very widescreen, Much more of a sweeping flourish, I'd say, than the one we saw in the Microsoft.
Which makes sense, because if you're going to Egypt, make the most of that landscape and the vistas and all of the iconic imagery that we associate with it. So yeah, that makes sense.
Uncle Patrick?
Still not asked.
Thanks very much.
There we go. I thought I just cut to the chase on that one. No, it was all right trailer. It was an Assassin's Creed trailer. I mean, it was a cut and paste Assassin's Creed trailer. Here's the assassin. He's going to do some cool assassin stuff. Here's a new tool he's got, like the bow with the poison on it. I think I saw something like that. Here's a camel. He's sitting on it. Oh, he's moving around on the camel. Whee! It was an Assassin's Creed trailer. Like I didn't get anything new from it. Like emotionally. I looked at it and I literally wrote camel riding, otherwise nothing new. Didn't do anything for me, this did. I
have new things to share because our friend Terramantis, Steve, put up a vid the weekend of he's been sponsored by Ubisoft for this vid.
Corruption.
It came across as really good, to be honest.
It would.
And with regards to 10 things that are happening in Assassin's Creed Origins, videos that he does very well anyway. And so I watched it, and I said to him afterwards, that combat doesn't look like Assassin's Creed combat. It looks more Souls or Bloodborne or Neo. How did it feel? And he says that's exactly what it is. So it's hitbox based. If you can't get to somebody, you're not going to fly over there and get them. Literally, if you swing and somebody isn't near you, you will miss. But as far as I can tell, there is a skill tree where you can develop in different ways beyond like that sort of Souls style, where you can advance your weaponry and your play style and your combos. But it is, because it's definitely got that Neo Bloodborne sort of dash as when you blocked onto somebody. But yeah, apparently it is more Souls combat this time. They've gotten rid of the regular floaty balletic stuff, which
some of the automation that happened in the combat. Yeah,
makes me very happy. And they showed some footage of the gladiatorial arena, and that looks fantastic.
Well, I have to say I'm glad that that's the case, because to me one of the trailers had some kind of fight footage cut into it, or fight gameplay cut into it, and being someone who's not played a lot of Assassin's Creed for a good sort of 5 years or so, I honestly couldn't see much of a difference. It still looked like it might end up being surrounded by a group of enemies, but they're going to attack me one at a time, and I'll just parry, riposte each one of them.
It's not been the case in the footage that I saw, particularly like the gladiatorial stuff.
Sure, yeah, the gladiatorial helps because it's one-on-one already, but yeah, that looked like odds were heavily stacked against the player, to be honest.
I saw something later that was like 4-on-1.
Yeah, but
the gladiatorial
is one-on-one.
He just like he was running away the whole time, like running into a hit and then just running away. Like,
I
don't know, that didn't inspire me to think, cool, he's badass. It's like, no, he's crafty, isn't he? He's running away a lot. I don't know.
Yeah. The gladiatorial stuff isn't one-on-one though. It's like an increasing amount of enemies and different kinds of enemies, not just weapons, but in kind of build and size. There was one guy who came through who was, because it's a good way of leveling up as far as I can tell, and getting new loot as a result of it. But also there was one guy who came through towards the end, and he got like 5 health bars. He was like way above the level of the main character.
I think that was the bit I saw, and maybe by the time I saw it, it was one-on-one, because he looked almost like a boss fight. He looked like he'd be a really tough ask. And yeah, like you say, you're kind of chipping away his health bar, and if he hits you know about it.
Oh yeah, and they were saying that he actually changes up his fighting style as the fight goes on as well.
Yeah, he learns what you're going to do and won't.
Not just that, the way that he's attacking you differs as the fight goes on, and it's not as if you sort of it's one bar to the next bar and things like do like a Lords of the Fallen did.
Okay, so
and you've got like multiple stages, So I was impressed by it, and the combat looks like something that I'd really like if I could use my normal sort of Souls type play style of being like an archer, but I got a bow that I could use as like a sword as well. Because I did wonder about the soul stuff like straight away with the parry, and I know Pat had said before you could parry in the previous games and stuff, but that was a very Souls kind of parry that was there in the Microsoft conference. So yeah, I'm still all in on this.
So from the bits of the gameplay demo I saw afterwards, yeah, they confirmed that you'll get loot and weapons that have rarity and special properties associated. So your bow might add a poison effect to arrows. There's a skill tree that's, I think, broken into 3 branches: Hunter, Warrior, and Seer.
Oh, right.
So Seer is associated with your interaction with animals, and Senu, the eagle companion. Mm-hmm. Warrior, obviously, is your combat, and then Hunter is your environmental stuff and your ability to make use of resources, I guess. And they confirmed, horses, camels, and I think they said there were other mounts available as well. I'm not sure entirely what they may be. And got a display of underwater hippo murder, which was cool.
Yes.
Which is just straight out of Far Cry.
There are crocodiles, aren't there, as well?
Good album title.
And underwater stuff as well.
Underwater hippo murder. A hippo underwater chasing after a wonderbill on a fishing line. But yeah, it looked like it was kind of Far Cry 3 style, where you've got to go and kill yourself up some animals in order to make a wallet.
I did see the.
Well, that's how you do it.
Wrong person to ask in that regard, I think. But I did see a thing on the E3 Jeff sort of stage where they said that you could fly the eagle right across the world. Yeah,
there's no distance limit or anything, or separation limit. Yeah. Still kind of off-put that an eagle behaves like a drone rather than an actual bird in terms of the way it flies and moves and etc. But that's probably just the nature of it. I couldn't help watch the eagle and imagine a Wildlands drone superimposed over the top of it. And I imagine that's where they've got the tech from. And I'm sure it would be incredibly annoying if you were flying the eagle and had to do kind of strafing runs rather than being able to actually hover and identify enemies. So it's probably just for ease of use.
Oh, here you go. Here's the thing then. Do you think maybe remember that thing from last year, Eagle Flight, the VR game? Do you think that was supposed to be how you controlled the eagle and it just wasn't working?
Maybe.
So you put on your VR headset, like, time for eagle time. Oh, jeez. Oh, God.
I mean, with most sort of UB announcements, you can kind of deconstruct which teams have supplied what. I mean, I was looking at the gladiatorial combat, and whilst it wasn't exactly
I was thinking For Honor.
For Honor, I wondered if that sort of team had been involved
or at least,
they've
been in kind of
Singapore
inspiration from it.
Singapore are involved in the boat stuff, aren't they? It probably is that Ghost Recon tech then for the Eagle.
There seemed to be a lot being made of the fact that if you commandeer a boat, the boat's owner just kind of sits down on the boat and waits for you to finish.
That's very nice.
And the fact that that's tied to how much your character is respected by the people that you're trying to help and protect. Because obviously the first trailer lent on this being Bayek coming back to his homeland and seeing what had happened to it and how the corruption had kind of spread and taken it over trying to liberate it somewhat. So yeah, it seems like they don't want you GTA style jacking someone's boat and throwing them in the water to get eaten by a hippo. So yeah, that was kind of cool. Although inevitably that's going to lead to people trying desperately to kick the person off the boat or see if they can get them to glitch through the ground or whatever.
That won't be hard.
There's going to be plenty of people trying to play with that, as there are in any kind of open world game. You get people try to play with intended mechanics. If there's a driving game where you can't run over pedestrians, you can be damn sure someone's going to try and run over every pedestrian in the game.
So we then had the Crew 2, so planes, boats, cars, YouTube, Facebook likes, and a lead bloke in the game that looked just like Andrew Wilson of Electronic Arts, which was really weird. It's almost as if somebody had gone, there, guess what I think we should do.
Well, wasn't it a few years ago that the there was a trailer for Mirror's Edge, and the bad guy in that looked just like Andrew Wilson as well.
Yeah.
Something about Andrew Wilson, he is the everyman.
I'm a big fan of the way they introduced the Andrew Wilson character as the king of all motorsport.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not a bad title, is it? I mean, hello.
If you can get it, yeah.
The king of all motorsport.
I see he got king of all motorsport hair.
Yeah, he had. Tosser.
King of all motorsport hair.
Fucking tosser. So I'm really into this, sort of.
This seems like a massive departure from The Crew, which was kind of pitted as driving game meets unlockable map through towers and just daft stuff like that, but
With
seemingly
Brent.
did very well for Ubisoft. So
I like the like some of the bits in that trailer looked very MotorStorm in places. Like here's
they
five
made a big
different
deal of the ATV stuff, and then
here's 5 different cars having a race together. Like that's MotorStorm. I love that game was amazing. I loved MotorStorm to pieces.
And so the other thing is you can switch vehicle on the fly.
Oh.
So if you're flying a plane over a river, you just, I think you press in a thumbstick and select to a boat, and you'll just drop into the water in the boat. And if you're driving along the road in a car and you go off a ramp, you can just turn into a plane and carry on flying.
Kind of like Drive to San Francisco.
A bit like that. I mean, the comparison
I presume Reflections will be quite heavily involved in this. This is their bag.
Yeah, possibly. I don't know.
Sorry.
But the comparison I saw was like GTA with switching between protagonists, where you can literally just at any point, as long as you're not about to crash into the side of a building and try and turn into something else or whatever. But you know, there's going to be points at which if you do it, it's not going to work just because of the nature of the world and the geometry. But yeah, if you're smart about it, you can kind of, and it literally is. It just transforms. There's no trying to explain it away in the world or anything. It's just your plane turns into a boat.
That's weird. I mean, Laura had a similar, like she had a GTA comparison as well. It's GTA, but you can't rob anyone. Like every vehicle shown, like I'm sure they've got those in GTA, right? You can just fly planes and stuff.
Yeah. How come you can see a snake in Assassin's Creed Origin and poo your pants, and yet a car that turns into a boat that turns into a plane, completely fine with that? Oh look, that world's doing an Inception. That's completely normal.
Well, the thing is, this is a video game, CJ, and I'm not invested in the plot of Carman. I mean, I'm really happy that Car has made a showing on Ubisoft's show.
Snake.
It's good to see Car, because Car's in it. It's
that
Car in Assassin's
Your
Creed.
best friend, Car.
Good mate, Car.
I kind of wrongly assumed that the landscape folding effect from Inception, or for the kids Doctor Strange, was just a trailer effect, and then you find out no, that's in the game, and then I thought, well, okay, it's just going to be this kind of straight-laced. There are some boat plane events, and then you find no, you can just convert from one to the other and drive around willy-nilly. This game sounds bananas. Yeah, the landscape folding thing actually happens in the game as you're driving along.
Drive on the ceiling.
Hills appear inverted above you, just fold over on top of you.
No.
I don't know to what end, other than okay, if I go off a ramp, I can fly in a plane, and maybe you can fly upside down and end up on the other plane. But it's in the game.
Achieve
apparently.
orbit.
I've not seen anything beyond the trailer footage, but I've heard and read that this is in the. I don't know how it's in the game. I don't know whether it's it was Split Second or Blur that had the Split Second, wasn't it? That had the
the emergent sort of landscape.
Yeah, the way that the track would change. So I don't know if it's that sort of thing, or whether just at random times it will get to midday and suddenly, for no good reason, the sea will come down upon you or whatever. I have no idea. But yeah, it just sounds like they've said, well, clearly people didn't warm to the structure of The Crew, so let's just do what the hell we like. It sounds bizarre, but...
Well, I think the king of all motorsport can do whatever he pleases.
I guess that's. I mean, I guess it kind of mirrors Steep to a certain extent, where it seemed like you could just do what you liked on an open area, and that they just wanted to cram in all these winter sports in that case, and just let the player enjoy it. And it looks like with The Crew too, they've just said, oh yeah, let's see what the Steep team are doing. How about that for motorsports? Because bizarre. But
I mean, I did hear a very mild-mannered man.
Was it Paddy?
No, it certainly wasn't. Not with his cravat and chaise longue and plastic cigarette holder.
Shit hair.
Pursed near his gentlemanly lips. And crooked teeth like an urchin that's come good.
What?
I heard a very mild-mannered man shock people by describing the crew as hot garbage, which I agree with. And he played the crew too, and he said he'd never known such a turnaround between first game and sequel. He said it was fantastic to play. So whilst
sort of thing,
whilst it's not for me,
assuming it's not the same group of people, assuming it is the same group of people making it and the same director, etc., it does kind of make you wonder how much the first time around the brief they were given, a bit like Watch Dogs, where they changed to Watch Dogs 2, where the tone of the game seemed to just entirely shift. It does make me wonder whether it was like the crew was what they had to make to be allowed to make this. Maybe that's just me hoping that that's the case, and this is them really getting to do what they want, because everything I saw of the crew just looked like not anything I was interested in at all. And this doesn't necessarily, versus Need for Speed again, if to put the caveat in, if we can get away from the dialogue in Need for Speed and maybe a bit of the story, that racing looked more my sort of cup of tea. But this, fair play to them. The crew too, I didn't even think would happen, and here we are with something that's kind of surprised me, and it seems like quite a few other people as well.
It's fitting into my theory of sequels as well. Usually the first game in an IP is all right, but has a few problems, and the second one's the one that tends to be really, really, really good.
Yeah, well, they iron out a lot of the problems that they just didn't have the ability or didn't know were there in the first one. So
they've got the framework down now. Now it's just making it much, much, much better. And yeah, like you say, like this. I was one of the people, like, when Crew was announced, I was properly into that. I think it was even on our E3 summer for that year, like, I'm really into the Crew, like, I can't wait to play that. And then I went to Gamescom and I played it, and I went, well, I'm glad I played this for free now.
I played it for about 3 minutes when it was on Games with Gold and just went, no!
It was turgid. I was not a fan.
But they've given it sort of quite an interesting haircut, really, or a crew cut. So we then got South Park: The Fractured But Whole with a very funny trailer. I giggled my way through this, especially the Timmy as Professor X stuff, like, you just called me a douchebag in my mind. All of that was just comedy gold. It was fantastic. Call girl with her double iPhones, which was made me laugh.
I am so massively into this. Like, I think we talked about this before. I had a copy of Stick of Truth, played about an hour of it, and then had to give the 360 back that I was borrowing.
Yeah,
it was when I was borrowing it so I could review Dark Souls 2, because the review copy turned up on a 360 and I was very upset, so I was allowed to borrow a 360. And I got a copy of this as well, and I played the first hour and I loved it. Like, it was really funny, like lots of environmental storytelling, more than you would imagine. The stories that you get from picking up, plastic cocks in people's drawers. It just tells a story of who lives there. And there's tons and tons and tons of that sort of odd, like, silly little in-joke loot. And like I've been since this, and probably a bit before this, I've been rewatching South Park because I like it. It's a funny show. It's just my humour hole. There you go. And like, just how many like little in-jokes and references they've built up over the years that I'm kind of experiencing fresh again, realizing how much of this stuff has actually forced its way into my own psyche.
Seeped into your subconscious, yeah.
Yeah, like, oh, that's where that comes from. Oh, dang. Like, you get this whenever you watch an old show that you used to love, like, oh, that's where that thing I say comes from. Oh, yeah. And just seeing like them go all in on the whole superhero thing this time. Because the whole fantasy goblins and wizards thing last time was really funny. Yeah. And then going in on the superheroes, which is one of the strongest kind of themes they've done. They've done a few episodes with the superhero characters in it, and they've been some of the strongest ones in a while. They've been really, really funny and really inventive, and just awful things going on, but very amusing. And yeah, like you say, the trailer was really, really funny. Like, actually like lost it laughing at Timmy at the end.
That's brilliant.
With this weird little, no, your franchise is failing, Carbon. Like just having a normal voice in his brain. Like I love that. I don't know if it would have been funnier him just going Timmy through mind powers. I don't know what would have been funnier.
The way they did it was perfect because it took people off guard.
Fucking well into it, Professor X Timmy. Like who thought?
James?
Yeah, absolutely. I really enjoyed the first one. With this one, it's a game I'm definitely going to play, but having played the first one and got a lot out of it, but kind of feeling like by the end I was sated in that respect. I was kind of not done because that sounds like, it wasn't worth my time. It absolutely was, but I was just wondering how much this one's going to grab me. And yeah, it seems like it's been a long time coming as well. So I'm not kind of chomping at the bit to get my hands on it, but it's the sort of thing that summer next year, if I find myself with a month or two, kind of shy of a few games to play, I'll absolutely grab this. And yeah, I agree. Again, it's kind of a shame this is now coming out 18 months after Captain America Civil War came out, as opposed to within a few months of that when it really would have kind of hit the nail on the head. I think a lot of it still applies because obviously we're still in superhero movie kind of overdose, especially with now DC ramping up as well. I
think that 18-month delay, though, to me suggests that Trey Parker and Matt Stone aren't letting it go until it's right.
Well, that's it. Yeah, I'm never one to begrudge a game delay. It just kind of felt like we knew about this sufficiently long ago that it could have come out at kind of... Because the thing with South Park, obviously, is the episodes are turned around so quickly that they can be very reactive to what's going on. And obviously that's just not the case with games. And that's what it kind of means. It's kind of a shame that it wasn't able to be so reactive to Batman vs. Superman and Civil War last year. But it's still relevant, still applies. And South Park Stick of Truth kind of felt like, to me, the way I feel about the series is when it's on the mark, it's fantastic, and when it's not, it's still entertaining because you've got the in-jokes and you know the characters, etc. But the Stick of Truth was absolutely top drawer as far as I was concerned all the way through. Just the funniest game I've played by a long shot, and this looks like it could well do the same. I think the fact the gameplay's changed helps, but just for some reason I kind of still don't feel like I need another South Park imminently, but I'm glad to know that it's out there for whenever I do get around to it. They did mention that there was a demo available, but I think that was just at E3.
Yeah, it was just on the show floor.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I just missed that fact or it wasn't quite stated as clearly. Maybe it was one of those for the people here. There's a demo available on the show floor, and I just missed that bit and heard demo available and thought, and then no. But yeah, it's only a few months away now, 4 months, minus 2 days as of time of recording. So yeah, coming soon.
So we then had Transference, a VR game featuring Tiny Man from the Endlessly Walking Tiny Men trilogy. Discuss.
So Elijah Woods is the tiny man from the Tiny Man Walking trilogy.
Endlessly walking.
Endlessly walking.
Endlessly.
Sometimes he got carried for a bit, though.
Yeah, he didn't always walk. He was a bit lazy. Some of the others did more of the work, I'd say. But anyway, he has a games company called Spectrevision. I think it may be a media company. I think they may be involved in other stuff, but they're certainly involved in games. And they propose to make horror output, and in terms of games, that means VR horror game where you enter the mind of a PTSD sufferer. Sounds interesting, but I'm not entirely. It also sounds like it could go horribly wrong. But
it's a decent enough trailer. I mean, what are they going to be putting it on? Is this for like the 5 or?
Do not know. They didn't announce platform as far as I could tell. I looked and tried to see, but as with VR, I think, well, if they're smart, they'll get it on as much as they can.
Yeah, this would go down a treat on PSVR, I think.
Vive and Oculus, I think you can now put games up on Steam and just mark them as working with either. I think I'm right in saying that. I hope I don't have VR headset, so apologies if I'm getting any of that wrong. And with PlayStation VR, the only question will be that being mildly less powerful, whether or not it will run quite as smoothly. But that's kind of the rendering, that's kind of the display rather than the actual ability to play the game on a PS4. So hopefully it comes to everything. And yeah, it sounds interesting, but as I say, it does sound like the sort of thing that could go horribly wrong, because trying to characterize PTSD for people who don't suffer PTSD or aren't familiar with it in a way that is easy to digest is a bit like trying to show, like drug sequences in films where you're trying to show how someone's mind's altered. And it's like anyone who's taken drugs says, doesn't really reflect it at all. And anyone who hasn't either presumes that is an accurate reflection and gets it wrong, or accepts that it's not, and then kind of what's the point? Just my view. But yeah, any kind of mental state or mental illness or disorder seems like, or fragility as well, especially, seems like it could be very difficult to get across in a game. Hopefully they do that justice, because that would be great if so, because that's kind of that's the almost key thing about VR, is they can present things from a different perspective than playing on a TV could, and kind of immerse you more in that, and that could be really cool if it does allow you to understand PTSD, or allow me to understand PTSD in any deeper or greater way. That would be really cool.
Patrick, is Laura adding this to her shrine for the Tiny Man from the endlessly walking Tiny Man trilogy?
Let's find out. Laura, that was fun that you said words there, because we need a question for you.
Okay.
So Ubisoft, you know when the Tiny Man from Lord of the Rings was on? The Tiny Man that you love?
I don't remember. What?
I think that says it all.
Oh, Elijah Wood?
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
Are you adding him to your tiny shrine of Tiny Man?
What?
Your tiny shrine that you had? Of all those pictures of Elijah Wood?
What, when I was like 17?
When you were 21?
Still valid.
Yeah. Would you? Okay. If the shrine still existed, she's pretending it doesn't exist. If the shrine didn't exist, would you have added him in?
He was already on there.
He was already on there. There you go.
No pictures.
There was him, there was Michael Rosenbaum, and Justin Timberlake, and Orlando Bloom.
Here we go, guys. Video game content.
Wow.
Transparency.
It's good that as husband and wife you have such a great shorthand and ease of understanding one another.
Yeah. Shut up. We're recording now. Go back to your video game.
So going from the meat and potatoes of Patrick's relationship to the skull and bones of video games, where you play as a boat fighting other boats in a search for bling for boats, featuring Ubisoft's love for whispery, whiny indie pop covers.
It's Car's cousin, isn't it? Boat is Car's cousin. So it's nice that they're branching out a bit. Yeah, I'm not sure if I'm into this or not. And this is weird, because this is just the Assassin's Creed ship combat turned into a full game.
Did you see? I thought on the face of it, this would get the Patrick Smith Award for Ubisoft game he likes but will never actually buy in the real.
No, I'm conflicted by it, because it seems to be very PvP heavy, and me and PvP,
it's all PvP.
Yeah, this is the thing. Like, I want to have
this campaign as well, so this is the other thing. Very mixed messages.
Yeah, I've heard a campaign.
I haven't heard a campaign.
But like a while ago, so when I wrote a review for Assassin's Creed 3, which was the first one that had the boat combat in it. Okay, and in that review, I wrote, "Hey, how about some more of the boat stuff? Maybe a full game, Ubisoft, please." And then Black Flag came out. I was like, "Oh wow, they kind of listened," and now they kind of listened again. I don't know, like being PvP only, or mainly anyway. I don't know if I'm into it or not. It looked like the boat combat. It looked fun, but it looked like the sort of game where, unless you're really, really good at it, you'll be bad at it. And that sounds like a stupid thing to say, but it feels like the kind of game where you jump into a multiplayer session and the other team are ridiculously good at it, and you will die and die, and they will out-tactic you, and you'll just get paired up with randos, and it'll be impossible. I don't know, like, I'd rather play Sea of Thieves. It looked like a po-faced, less fun version of that.
I'm not in disagreement with you on that. This to me looked like the sort of game that I would watch on Twitch and really enjoy people that were really clever taking on people who were really clever plus noobs, and really enjoy seeing all of that happen and be really entertained by it, but wouldn't actually buy myself.
Well, they did have a good line in the trailer, drown you soggy nutmegs.
That is a good line, I agree with you.
It's a really good line. I liked the bit at the end when like the fight was over and those pirate hunters came out and it's like, right, peg it, go, time to leave. Yeah. That looked kind of fun.
But then, Patrick, they suggested a monster. And monsters aren't real.
In the world of pirates they are, yeah, they justify. That's a kraken, that's not a monster, that's just a large squid.
Is that right? Well, that was a large snake. It's large magic.
It's a monster, it's a rhino.
In Assassin's Creed. It's an underwater rhino. It's one of the hippos from Assassin's Creed that's just got a bit bloated.
It's just eating a few too many people. And grown tentacles.
It's got some seaweed caught on his head, and it looks like it's tentacles underneath. It's just that. It's it's not a monster. It's just a big squid. Like in the olden times when people saw rhinos and thought they were unicorns. That's just wrong.
That's because I've gone through time and stuck a cornetto on its face. Unicorn next. Making mythical monsters with bits of food. I think it was Justin Farron from UB Singapore did a really good job of explaining the game.
Oh, for sure. I know what it's about. Like, I know how it works. It just doesn't look that good.
See, I know what it's about, but I felt like, being someone who played about an hour of Black Flag and thought the opening to that game was pretty turgid and not interested, thank you very much. But understanding that a lot of people were really warmed to and enjoyed a lot of the boat stuff, i.e. being a pirate, going and collecting sea shanties and getting to sail the seas and engage in a bit of ship-to-ship combat, going into port and trading, etc. It felt like what people were saying was, okay, yeah, Assassin's Creed, that's fine, but could we take that stuff, so Black Flag minus the assassins, and do that? And yet what we got is a game where I assumed you played as the captain, but maybe you actually play as the boat?
Yeah, I just think it's all about boats. When I was looking at it, I was thinking that it seems very much the progression system from their recent fighting game, which led me to name it Or Honor.
Oh my god.
It's a bit of a boat, also their other game.
But, I'm just not sure it's necessarily what people... Not being one of the people, I'm not sure it's what the people I heard asking for the boat game really wanted, because if you're the boat, you can't go into port and get off and go and trade and interact with people and explore a pirate world. You can sail the sea and fire cannonballs, which is a bit weird, I think, especially if PvP ends up being as big a thing. But then again, Assassin's Creed Brotherhood, until like a week before it came out, people, including myself, thought it was multiplayer only. And it was only afterwards that they said, oh no, there's a full campaign as well. Yeah, do you not remember when they announced it? They didn't talk a jot about the campaign. They talked only about the PvP stuff and the multiplayer. And they called it Brotherhood, and everyone kind of thought, okay, multiplayer Assassin's Creed game, could be cool, not going to pay $60 for it. And then they went, oh no, there's a full campaign as well. And it turns out, yeah, it was an entirely as large a campaign as there was in 2. There was very mixed messaging on that, and I'm wondering if it's the case here. The PvP stuff just being the ship combat bit that people wanted to see, and maybe there's more to it, but I don't know how you play a campaign as a boat. I don't know how you humanize a boat, and why wouldn't you just be a captain?
That's how it worked in Assassin's Creed. You just kind of ordered your guys to do stuff, and they did the stuff. Like you see the guys running around the ship and doing the stuff. Like if you say half mast, and then they'll run up and kind of run the sails down. It's kind of fun like that.
But
what annoyed me is when they pulled up a side. It's like, oh, we're going to board them now, and it's just a cutscene.
Press X to board.
bollocks.
And that's the problem. I'm actually literally hearing people say, no, you play as the boat. Because if you can't control the captain as a separate entity from the boat, then you are the boat. You can't go anywhere with the captain. You're upgrading the boat, not the captain. So you're just the boat. The captain may just be, you may get to design your own character as the captain, etc. But if that captain can't get off the boat and go and do other stuff and be a character separate from their boat, then you're playing the boat, aren't you? I mean,
I suppose if you jump off your boat, then other players will just shoot your boat. Like, you can't do anything to your boat when it's just sitting there, can you? I suppose that's pretty well they've done that. But they're missing out here on the best, like one of the best moments in Black Flag. One of the most that you can make yourself is when you're having a ship fight and you're flying around and you've just got that bit where you're about to board and you let go of the wheel and you run down the ship and you run along one of like the planks and things, jump up, grab a rope and just swing across and land on their boat and just start laying into them. It's so much fun.
And that wouldn't have to be an Assassin's Creed aspect. That's a pirate aspect. That's something we associate with pirates, right? Is actually, boarding another boat and trying to take it for their own, plundering it, if you like, or trying to sink it and salvage anything they can from it. And yet, if you're not able to leave the boat, which, I mean, even if you were playing as the captain, you could leave the boat. You could just leave the boat to someone else to take care of. They can just autopilot that bit of it and have your second in command take over the boat, and you get to go and be Captain Jim Bird, name not Jack Sparrow, on another boat, being nutty and...
Sorry, Captain Jim Chaffinch.
That's the one. I literally couldn't think of a bird for a second there for no good reason. And that seems like people wanted to be a pirate, not be a ship, if that makes sense. And that's a weird thing to pick up on, but it's just from hearing what people wanted after Black Flag and seeing this, there seems like a real big disconnect. It's not coming out for a year and a half, so I'm kind of wondering, are they going to switch Assassin's Creed to biannually or 2 yearly, if you like, and this will fill in, but then how does this franchise become something that happens every 2 years unless you get to personify a pirate a bit more than they seem to suggest? Because the captains did look like individual characters, and I'm sure I hope you're able to, name and kind of design your captain when you start, but
and your boat.
Here's the thing: does it exist in the Assassin's Creed universe? Because it sure as hell looks like it. Like that combat, that is the Assassin's Creed boat combat. It was it. Like that is exactly how it worked, and it had the look of Assassin's Creed to it, and like the way the menus looked as well. Like it's just an Assassin's Creed menu. So is it part of Assassin's Creed? Is it a separate entity that just uses the same engine? I was a bit confused there. Like
they didn't even mention, I don't think, Assassin's Creed. They hinted at it when they introduced the game, but I don't think they mentioned it at all. Personally, I'd be surprised. It's the sort of thing, it could be Easter eggs, but just because it looks the same doesn't mean it has to be the same universe.
I just like the thought of Paddy actually getting quite into it and just going, oh, this has gone really beyond my boundaries. This is really good. And then it just pulls out and goes, and you're sitting in a bath with some toys and Abstergo with a VR helmet on.
That's fine. That's fine. Like even if they flash up as like, it was made by Abstergo at the start, it's like, okay.
Yeah, I mean, there's all sorts of Easter eggs they could do. I mean, the ultimate treasure that you plunder could be a piece of Eden or whatever, or you could just bump into someone who is a character in one of the Assassin's Creed games, or hear tales of, or whatever.
Oh, there's going to be cross-game DLC, isn't there?
There's all sorts of things.
There'll be a season pass with this, you can guarantee. They'll do like they're doing with like For Honor and Ghost Recon and all that kind of stuff. So it'll be a similar payment progression process, because that's what they were saying they make the money on. So they've announced to shareholders that there'll be less games, but because they support them in inverted commas for longer, and give people stuff that they can buy, they end up making more money in the long run as well.
Yeah.
I agree with what Pat said though, that I think that Sea of Thieves has got more character, and it appeals to me much more, I must admit. It seems to have this and a bit more to it.
Yeah, when they first introduced this, I thought, oh, this is going to be a more serious Sea of Thieves, was literally what I thought. And then as the kind of demo went on, it seemed less and less like that. And I wondered if that wasn't what people wanted, because the pirate aspect is not just what's on the boat in Sea of Thieves. It's getting off the boat, diving to a shipwreck, going and following a treasure map. Yeah, it's all cliche stuff, but that's what pirates are. It's a lot of stuff that we understand implicitly by the word pirate. And if it's all on a boat, I don't see how that can tick all the boxes in the way that Sea of Thieves is at least attempting to. Obviously tonally very different, and for people who wanted Black Flag but boats, maybe the rare whimsy isn't what they were hoping for out of it, but it does seem odd if you can't play as captain and swing onto another boat and take it over and end up with a kind of Assassin's Creed style managing a fleet of boats yourself type thing. A weird one. Yeah.
So we then went to Just Dance 2018, where Sub-Zero, Mortal Kombat, Jamiroquai went into Bubble Pop, went into some sort of satanic panda, and literally, and then somebody called BB Rexa. He was very, very pretty. But
it's not a real name, is it?
Don't know.
Probably not her given name, but that's.
It's the name she's given me, and I don't like it.
Nom de plume.
Staj nom.
I thought this was not as mental as usual from Just Dance. I was actually a little bit let down by this. I expected a bit more. It seemed quite restrained. All things like, oh, a panda's doing a dab. Like, that's not exciting. That's not like the giraffe yesterday, or what was it you said in the show before? A mango.
I don't know.
I think it was
this man just went off on one, and everybody just nodded and just went, "Yeah, that sounds plausible."
It sounds like a mango, and then Aisha Tyler comes out and says, "Look at that mango. That was weird, wasn't it?"
Lol. Here's the division.
Being a Just Dance player of some minor standing, the panda is an avatar in the game that you can represent yourself. It's a character in the game, but also an avatar you can choose when you make your dancer profile thing. But yeah, usual bananas, robotic ninjas, and then pink ladies essentially came out, by which I'm referring to Greece. And then dabbing panda and someone I've never heard of singing a song, which was it's all right.
I will give a tip of the hat here to something that you wouldn't think was a thing, but my friend Moogly H, who I knew from streaming of Dark Souls, is actually a world champion Just Dance performer.
I would love to speak to that person, because as far as I can tell, Just Dance is nowhere near accurate enough in.
Oh, she's very good. There's bits on her Twitter.
Movements.
There's bits on her Twitter. She's very good.
Well, I don't doubt it. It's just I can never tell whether it's lost connection with the Joy-Con or I'm doing it wrong. It doesn't give me feedback that tells me either.
James,
as far as I can tell,
this is going to be hard to hear. This is going to be hard for you to hear. Unfortunately, you actually can't dance.
Oh, I know I can't dance, but I'm pretty sure I'm doing exactly the move, and I do it once, and it tells me, "Yeah, you're doing it perfect." And I do exactly the same thing again.
I think
just big red X on the screen.
The Just Dance championships are more not people playing the game, but doing
actual
routines from the game, them sort of smooth and groovy and all that sort of stuff. So she's very, very good. So
I have a question. Did we learn anything about Just Dance 2018 in this video?
There's dancing, but just dancing.
Okay. I think you're missing the point. Just the point. The point.
It's also on the way.
The point of including Just Dance is for the people that Just Dance is for, to say another one coming, just like you knew. Here's a bit of music. It's
just normally they go, oh, there's a new one this year. We've got this. I expected that this year we've got something.
Sure, like when they announced Just Dance Unlimited, or you could use your phone, etc.
Yeah.
Those were changes. There's obviously nothing changing this year. Let me ask you, when they spend 10 minutes talking about FIFA 2018 and the changes, did you prefer that, or would you have just preferred them to come on and go, another FIFA in it, let's move on?
That's fair.
To be honest, I'd have
Yeah,
loved
right.
it if Alex Hunter had come on sort of dressed like Sub-Zero from Mortal Kombat with glowy Daft Punk things and come on with like 3 of his mates and started doing Egyptian dances. Oh, there's a snake. So we then went to South Park Phone Destroyer, which looked very, very funny, and is probably going to be really good.
I definitely had a moment when they said Cowboys versus Indians.
And then they went on and on. It was great.
Yeah.
Inuits are Native Americans too, and then, flashed up. Cowboys versus Native Americans versus Buccaneers versus Knights versus Princesses versus Bards versus Choir Boys versus Clerics versus Angels versus Cops versus Wizards versus Aliens versus Pigeons versus Cock Magic.
Oh yeah, I was waiting for. I was on the edge of my very seat, so waiting for that one. It's bound to be good. It's bound to be good.
Cock Magic is a thing as well.
Yeah.
It was definitely an episode. I think it's even called Cock Magic. I'm into this, and I'm into the way they describe
You're
it.
into Cock Magic?
Phone. Yeah,
I knew it. Your marriage is a sham. Also, Cock Magic does sound like, tying it back to Just Dance, it does sound like it could be a Jamiroquai album.
But I was a big fan. I like the way they described it, with that sort of very action film. Phone destroy, yeah! Like, I was into that. That gave me happy feelings.
Well, just that delivery at the end.
Just that perfect little delivery at the end of the destroy, yeah! Like, go on then. All right, I'm in. I don't care. I'll buy it.
Yeah, I mean, even the intro where they're talking about what your phone's used for, and now we're about to blow your mind in that very kind of sarcastic manner that they do. I'll be interested to see what it is. I'm hoping that the game itself is actually going to be something, that comments on mobile games as much as copies and maybe improves on some of the stuff that mobile games do. So
kind of like Cow Clicker.
I didn't hear
play
what you
Cow
said.
Clicker? Kind of like Cow Clicker.
Possibly, but it'd need to both ape but also do something different to a standard clicker game to make it of interest beyond about 5 minutes for most people, I think, because once you play one clicker game to a greater or lesser degree, you do kind of know what you're getting from others. So we'll have to see. I don't remember getting a strong feeling about what the game is going to necessarily be. And if it's a mobile game, it could be anything from a clicker game to a card game to some kind of turn-based tap till the enemy's dead game. So
free-to-play bullshit. But it'll probably be fun.
Let's hope so.
So, yeah, that's fine.
So we then had Starlink Battle for Atlas, or as I heard somebody say, No Man's Skylanders, which was just well played, whoever came up with that. So to dive into this a little bit more, under an article that I found on Nintendo Life called Ubisoft's Starlink Battle for Atlas isn't just for kids, Something funny happened in development. And they said the title uses customizable spaceships which are tethered to your controller and can be altered on the fly with weapons vanishing and appearing in-game as you swap out parts. This approach means that you can change your strategy as you play. For example, should you meet an enemy which is able to repel your ice attacks, you can quickly change that weapon for a fire-based equivalent. So that sounds kind of cool. I really like the trailer. Matthew Rose, the gentleman who came on, was a very nice man. They did say that there were sort of physical toys, but also digital ones as well. So I was wondering if part of that might be the same way as they'd done Skylanders on Nintendo 3DS, whereby once you'd added them to the Portal of Power, your Nintendo 3DS knows that you've got them, and you can just swap out when you're on the go. You don't have to have like the figure there or whatever. But yeah, it looks fun. I know that they said they started developing it for players 8 to 11 years old, but something funny happened during development. We had lots of instances where players, parents or siblings saw it and said, I actually want to play that. All the spaceships have the ability to fly in space, of course, but also in low altitude on the surface of the planet, and we allow you to explore those worlds at your own pace. I quite like the look of this. I don't know if I'd play it, but I like the look of it. It's very ambitious, and for Ubi that can be accused of doing variations of their popular game, it's really pushing the boat out, and especially with numerous instances of Toys to Life not doing well now, and part of me wonders if this was probably greenlit when they were doing brilliantly. I like the look of the spaceships as well. They look cool. Anybody?
Be hopeful. If Ubisoft didn't see something in this that they thought was going to make it successful, they would have canned this without ever announcing it. Because, my first thought was, but Toys to Life is pretty much dead. And I know it's not. I know that's an oversimplification of the situation. Skylanders has been going for years. Yes, it's on a bit of a hiatus at the moment, but I don't think anyone doubts that if the moment is right again, Activision will dust that off and they will go full frontal assault on getting Skylanders back into people's hands, or kids' hands. And there are plenty of games out there still to play. There are still LEGO Dimensions packs coming out, but I think they are winding that down now. I think the last couple have been...
LEGO Dimensions. My problem with LEGO Dimensions is that the game is not aimed at children at all.
I agree with you.
What child 100%. Gives a shit about the A-Team? What child gives a shit about Knight Rider? No child gives a shit about stuff. The Goonies, they're 8. They don't care. They want Ben 10.
The thing is, though, on the other side of that, I've seen Skylanders, which is a game which is aimed at kids, and 40-year-olds going, "You're ruining my childhood. Give Spyro back."
But so given and the Disney whatever that was called, why am I blanking on it?
Infinity.
Yeah, Disney Infinity's gone away, hasn't it? And that's not to say that the toys still aren't there, and you couldn't pick up the game probably from any number of second-hand stores quite cheaply, along with some figures, and have plenty of fun with that. I haven't played any of these games, I don't think, but I've certainly had my fair share of fun with the previous LEGO games that didn't come with build your own figures, etc., and a portal. But it just seems like if Ubisoft weren't confident, and I agree, the gameplay itself looked like, okay, this is, space exploration and combat maybe, and the idea of building models attached to your controller I'm not sure about, but obviously they have to make it converse with the game somehow. But it looked a bit weird holding a controller with a ship sticking up off the top of it.
It meant that you could go like meow.
Sure, yeah, absolutely, and if they make use of, say, on PlayStation 4, if they put it on that, the speaker that's on there, so you get the ship noises coming from that'd be cool. I clearly Ubisoft have confidence that this is going to be able to transcend that notion of Toys to Life as being something that isn't quite the force it once was. Good
I hope they've made the Toys to Life. I hope they've made the ship part really good, like well connecting. Because wouldn't that be the worst? You're playing and then you just bump it and then half your ship falls off. Like, oh piss!
Well, I've lost B-Wing. You've got the digital side of things as well, because it is coming on Switch as part of it. That might be, if you have got that massive universe and lots of sort of spaceship toy funds that you can do there as well. That again, it might be a fun one for long journeys, especially to keep blighters happy. But also, I know a lot of people that are into that buy toys and are into spaceship things, and
I do think. I mean, even Skylanders technically was a pre-existing franchise with Spyro. I know not really, but technically, every other Toys to Life that I can think of off the top of my head comes from a pre-existing franchise. That means that, in theory, people want to buy the toys anyway. I don't think it's outrageous to say that people wanted the Disney Infinity collectibles, and if they played them with the game, great, but they were actually quite happy to have some decent Marvel and other Disney character figurines.
Because those figures were really good. Like, of all the figures I've seen, they were my favourite ones, like, look-wise. Because they had a consistent art style. They looked like a collection.
They all looked like they were inhabiting the same space. And
I've still been meaning, Infinity-wise, to pick up the 2 Tron figures, because I think they're quite cheap now. And I really like the look of them, particularly the Cora.
So yeah, I do just wonder, outside of people, and I as a kid, I certainly made my fair share of model aircraft type things as well. Outside of people for whom that naturally appeals to anyway, and people who like Lego, etc., which is not a small number of people. Let me be very clear, but it doesn't as far as I'm aware, Starlink's not a pre-existing franchise, or if it is, it's not one that I've heard of before, so therefore presumably kids aren't going to be desperately after it. It's not like Transformers or something where adults are going to want it as a collectible. So as long as Ubisoft's expectations are managed in terms of making sure that this has to be desirable for what it is and not what it represents from people's memories or nostalgia or anything, then
it possibly gives them the opportunity to get into toy shops as well. Sure. And while there are places, like Smiths and Toys R Us that do both, if those toys are good enough, and they did look sort of pretty chunky and pretty well designed, that's another avenue for them to find an audience. So, raw.
I do think, like, I was, as someone who doesn't buy Toys to Life games and won't buy them, they're just not for me. Like, I did like the concession that you can collect these things digitally as well. Like, you haven't got to buy a mountain of toys to be able to play it. You can play it just as a video game. What that means for having to buy the pieces, like, is that better or worse that you then buy the bits digitally and you've just spent £3 on a virtual gun for your game? I don't know. Is that better or worse?
I'm wondering if they might do the thing whereby, if you can buy certain ships in the shops, and you can chop and change them and build your own vehicle. But I'm wondering if digitally, if you end up with a a version of a ship that you really like, as to whether you can then go, right, this is what my ship looks like. Ubisoft, can you send it me? Because you do get that sense of, if you've got a ship that you really like, you quite like it on top of your wardrobe or suspended near your lamp, sort of on the ceiling and stuff. I can imagine kids doing that, especially.
Yeah.
Also
I suppose
adults.
That's when you then go and buy the bits and just do it yourself. I imagine the bits would be easy to get. Would they do it as a ship with bits, or would it be, here's a gun collection, here's a wing collection, here's a collection of bits that are very fiery? It's be interesting to see how they
sell out,
them.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd imagine that they're going to be sort of quite hefty. They'd have to command, because they were big toys that, if you're covering a controller and stuff, so you're going to need some decent store space.
Hefty. I've got one more thought on Starlink, Battle for Atlas. Shit name.
Yeah,
Battle
it is
for
a
Atlas.
little bit.
I thought it was a No Man's Sky thing, because you do Atlas stuff in No Man's Sky. I was like, is this related to that? And it took me a minute or two before I realised it was completely separate, and it looks like it.
Agreed.
Yeah, just call it Starlink.
It sounds like one of those cheap straight-to-video rivals for Star Wars when it first released, like on Guild Home Video. So, I don't know.
I just hope that this isn't. Ubisoft had one as well called Draw Sum, I think, a tablet. But remember, THQ had the UDraw tablet, and apparently that is not innocent when it comes to the reason that THQ no longer exists as the entity it once was. Because there were stories of the UDraw tablet, like, just having thousands of them that they hadn't sold, and it was a bit of a disaster. I believe, in fact, THQ themselves described it as a disaster. I've just checked, actually, 1.4 million unsold units they had, and I think Ubisoft had an equivalent that was a much smaller, lower key release. But yeah, I just hope this isn't that. And it's not a similar product necessarily, but yeah, I hope their expectations of how many of these they need to make and what quality they need to be and how good the game itself has to be are all kind of in line, because I'd hate to see something like this, because that was another issue with Disney Infinity, was they had a larger number of figures that they'd produced than they ended up selling, and they just weren't happy to be sitting on large amounts of stock that's seen as money that's wasted, essentially.
Well, given given that trailer, I'd imagine that Ubisoft's expectations are pretty steep, and the next
to the
game that they
Olympics.
showed, the next
Steep
game that they
segue
showed,
to the Olympics.
yeah, Olympic. It's in all credit to Ubisoft, I'm surprised and that they kept supporting Steep, because I don't think it's done that well. But maybe the road to the Olympics, because it must have cost them a bob or two to get that license.
Kind of weird to see it like an Olympics game that's not just like Nagano 2012 Olympics. I don't know if that was the right one. I don't follow sport. But like you do see these kind of games turn up in your charity shops and your bargain bins all the time. Olympic Games, and it's just some
very bland
mini game shovelware. Although the one of the last Olympics ones on the PS3 was kind of funny. Like it was rubbish to the point where it was entertaining. But yeah, I think it's a really good get that they've managed to get this for the actual Olympics. Like, because Steep has pretty, the actual mechanics of Steep. I played a bit of the beta and it was pretty solid. I wasn't very good at it, but the actual mechanics that were there were quite fun. The snowboarding and the skiing particularly were really, really fun. I'd fall down a mountain and die, but having it on a course now where it's like, right, do a slalom or do some cool tricks on a half pipe, like, all right, yeah, that looks pretty fun.
So, I'd imagine that the people that do Olympic stuff are very, very brave and thrive on adrenaline, but mostly just for the regular people in the streets and in the houses, that they'd say, people are fucking scared. Which is what Dan Hayes said, the director of Far Cry 5, which made me write on this piece of paper, whoa! Exclamation mark.
Yeah, I wrote that. I wrote fucking scared in big letters, and yeah.
I thought this looked brilliant, and I liked how it balanced the genuinely creepy, terrifying real world stuff with big characters and mangy dogs that bring you guns and people in planes and Optimus Prime, and it looked great. I could lose myself in this. Great trailer.
I liked that, that they really are, and the fact they said they were building this 3 years ago as well. Like, before the political situation in America has gotten to the point that it's at now. And it kind of feels good that they can chat shit because, like, they're allowed to chat shit about America because Ubisoft are from like France or Canada.
Unfortunately, in the eyes of Americans, that means they're probably very much not allowed to chat shit about America.
Because America never
very,
says anything about France. In fact, I remember in the documentary Armageddon, there was a moment in that where they definitely didn't put France getting blown up for a laugh. Although I do remember the best part of that being Ben Affleck on the commentary questioning why they thought it was better for a team of oil rig workers to train to be astronauts than to get a group of astronauts, teach them to drill a hole.
But Ben Affleck asking all the same questions that we did.
Ben Affleck, voice of reason. Who knew?
Demplex.
But Far Cry 5 then, like,
yeah.
I think this looks really good. Like, I like the whole people for hire thing they've got. Like, you can have a gun for hire with a sniper, or some fangs for hire, which was the dog, or what was the plane?
Wings for hire.
That was pretty. And
I don't know. I did like how he gave you that thumbs up there.
Yes,
it was like Bonza.
I smiled and I clapped completely. Like, well done. Yep, fine. I thought the dog looked really good. Like, he would go get guns for you.
That's what I call guns. So you're fine.
Who's good boy? Go get me a boy.
You get me in trouble with the police.
Especially when you fire a boy.
Yeah. Wow.
I like the stuff. Like, even the stuff with the sniper looked like it was taken about Metal Gear 5. Like, saying, right, you go hit up there. Wait, shoot them when I tell you to. Like, that was cool.
And the dog as well. The for hire aspect looked very that to me. I don't know whether you have to pick one when you go out on a mission. Probably not. You can probably on the fly switch, I guess. But I don't know if you can have all available. Sorry?
It is co-op, and I would love to play this co-op. This has really surprised me and taken me back, and they avoided all the trailers beforehand as well.
Yeah. That was a big draw in 4 as well. That they made a big deal with the elephant stampeding into the settlement or stronghold or whatever, and having a co-op partner there. But yeah, it kind of made it sound like your co-op partner was another one of your kind of for-hire assists. So again, yeah, I don't know if you can have all of them at once, because there was a certain amount of you can build this backup team, or whether it's just a kind of you can have one of the above in order to kind of the same way you did in Metal Gear, you could only really have one active at a time.
Yeah, and it would cost you
and
dollars
that
to get them
changed
back
the
up.
way you would play.
I think
I wasn't sure about what after you.
When the Optimus Prime truck smashed through, it did say as one of the characters co-op help.
Yeah.
So I presume you just sort of joining those that cast of characters. But I'm fine with that. When they showed those characters, I was like, yeah, I want to shoot religious American nutters with them.
Well, here's time for the reference then. I don't know how it works in Far Cry 4, but when you bring a person in, is it like you're both you're both in the same world and you're both unlocking story stuff at the same time, or is it more like Dark Souls where you summon someone in to help you for a bit and then they piss off?
Don't know. I just saw the demo. I didn't play Far Cry 4.
Oh, okay. It sounded like you'd played it. I apologise.
That said, it is cheap enough now where I quite fancy sort of having a pop at that if anybody's sort of up for it.
I played Far Cry 3 and then kind of swore off the series, I'm afraid.
But co-op fun is always fun.
It's true, co-op makes everything better.
Do you know what else makes it better? When a tractor mushed a person. I was very happy with that.
That is true.
And again, me and Laura both cheered and clapped.
Do you know what else? What else makes it better? When a monkey with a grappling hook for a hand hands a giant pig a chocolate tiny pig.
So can I give you? Let me tell you a story about the next one. So I'm sitting on the sofa. All right, we've just seen Far Cry 5. We've just seen a man get mushed by a tractor, which is, good times. It's been a good show. Ubisoft is generally always a good show. I've been enjoying myself. And then the next trailer started up, and I saw the side of a pig man, and I stopped talking, and I scooched forward to the front of the sofa, edge of the sofa, and I stared at the screen, mouth agape, for about 3 minutes of this trailer. And then the title card flashed up, and I threw my notebook across the room.
That's ace.
I was a bit of a wreck at this.
You're a big fan of the original, I take
it. It's
it.
fucking brilliant. It's just, if you're listening and you've not played it, what's wrong with you?
I am listening.
What's wrong with you?
I have it on Games with Gold on backwards compatibility, and now
play
I haven't played it. All right, then. Thanks for joining us.
Go now. Bye. Pick this up We'll pick this up in a week.
Fair enough.
Mate,
right.
I was so my notes at this point. I picked the notebook up and I've written Beyond Good and Evil 2, Michelle Ancel, Tears, Me Too, Oh God.
Oh.
That's the state of my notes at this point. I was
some people looked at that interaction where he spoke to Eve. And some people were going "Oh, Eve, my nemesis," and I was like, I didn't get that feeling at all.
So
he was
I think that's possibly because of essentially the history of Beyond Good and Evil 2, which is Michelle Ancel has wanted to make it for years, has started making it by whatever anyone outside can tell on multiple occasions, and then ended up making more Rayman games instead, and there was that whole if people buy Rayman Legends or Rayman Origins, maybe we'll be allowed to make Beyond Good and Evil, and there was this kind of notion that Michel Ancel was being asked to work on other games when he'd rather work on Beyond Good and Evil, and then he actually stepped away from Ubisoft for a while, or was allowed to work on other projects.
He stepped away from Ubisoft for a while.
for a while, exactly. And then it clearly has come back in. So I think maybe that's what people were referring to, in that there was this notion that Yves was basically wagging his finger saying no, no, no to Michel Ancel, who really just wanted to do this.
But if you're chucking money into something, and like Yves didn't think the design document was good enough, and I know Michel Ancel has said that, you know, the new consoles have allowed them to do have a greater deal of ambition, and, you know, he said that this is a seamless online playground, which is pretty huge. Now, Laura Kate Dale has actually come out and said that the person that tipped the hat towards this trailer being on Ubisoft's conference has also said that this will be a 12-month Switch exclusive.
Behave.
Yeah,
She's been right, to be fair. She's been right with a great deal of stuff. Yeah. So, but yeah, that'll be interesting if it is the case.
Not poo-pooing her at all. She's only reporting what she's been told, and that's fine. I don't believe what she's been told, for the pure and simple reason that, that trailer, for a start, if that is anything close to what they hope to do, Switch is not the first place I would try and run that on. And second, as you say, they're saying this game is now more possible or closer to what they want to do because of modern consoles. Well,
yeah, I agree.
Switch can't do the stuff that PS4 and Xbox One did before X and Pro, or Pro and X respectively, came out. So I love my Switch. It's where I prefer to play games if I possibly can. I'm not someone who needs graphical prowess, but if they're saying couldn't do this until now, that's not because Switch arrived.
Oh no, I'm not saying it is. Maybe he's kind of developed the right design document, because they've said there was a guy in Eurogamer who was going like, oh, this is just a trailer. They haven't even started making the game yet. And they've said that the game is, that development is like 3.5 years deep on this.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so you can see it running in the background on another video that I saw. Is it the same one, or later on? Like, you can see the monkeys flying about in the background. Yeah.
They were saying it's playable at the show. That like behind closed doors, it was being demoed.
Yeah. So what's playable is the engine they are building.
Okay.
And it's an open world engine. They've created some landscape to move around in. But it's an engine, because that's the other thing to bear in mind. Michel Ancel, when making Rayman Origins, actually they made the UbiArt engine that was used for both Rayman games, Child of Light, I think also Valiant Hearts as well.
And that Blood Rain game as well.
It may well have been used for others. They're the ones that I know of. And that was this big kind of like, if you're going to do a 2D RT or artistic kind of game where you want, beautiful artwork, lots of control over how you do it, this is what Ubisoft are going to use. And so the 3.5 years of development is a team of 15 people creating an engine, it sounds like, at this point. And they're getting to the point now where they can start actually building the game, which is where the Space Monkey program comes in, which is all very grey at the moment. Not really sure if you sign up for it how much involvement you'll get. Is it just saying, I like this, I don't like that, or are you actually going to provide any kind of input creatively, or is it literally you are the test group that gets to give a thumbs up or a thumbs down? As far as I know, there's not much information out there as to how far that's going to go, but that, I suppose, how far the game along is would dictate how much influence fans of the game or people who want to enroll in this program will actually have on it. I think there's reason to be cautious, because we have seen a kind of release or a trailer clip previously back in 2007. There's been at least 2 or 3 times where we've heard the game's in development and then nothing kind of came of it. But like Paddy, my response as soon as the first shot where you're kind of panning down through the clearly very vertical city, came up, I was like, my 2 words out of my mouth to the wonderful Joshua Garrity, who I was on a Skype chat with, where they lied. Because, to be fair, this looks incredibly different to the original Beyond Good and Evil, but it does echo that footage we saw of Jade and, why am I blanking on the pig's name?
Paige.
Yes, thank you. Where they were working a car, weren't they? It was like a mechanic shop.
Yeah, they were working on a car, and there was that other trailer where she was kind of running around in the city, and it was lots of jumping through toilets and things. And
that stuff looks closer to this, but yeah, as soon as that came up, I was like, they lied. They said this wasn't going to be at the show, and here it is. And that's not a criticism. It's just me. It's just how gobsmacked I was that we were getting to see this. And if they can get across any of the feeling that came across, the kind of atmosphere and the style that came across in that trailer, and shape it into a game, which clearly this isn't yet, then fantastic. I guess probably not for you, CG, given you don't have the attachment, but Paddy, are you considering signing up to the Space Monkey program?
I'm kind of upset with myself that I haven't, because I wrote it in my notebook to do it immediately, and then just... I think the next hour was a bit of a blur. I remember sitting on the floor for a while, just sort of staring at Twitter, trying to type thoughts and not doing very well. Yeah, I'm all in. I'm so in. Like, the original Beyond Good and Evil is in my top 10 of ever. Yeah. Like, it's up there.
So this announcement's up there with Shenmue 3 and Final Fantasy 7 Remake and the other ones, you know, the big kind of people screaming announcement.
Yep, this was my announcement of the whole show, and I'm amazed it didn't actually leak before. Like, you know, like you say, they said it wasn't going to turn up, and
thank God it didn't. Like,
yeah, I'm so happy, like, because like something that really annoys me every year is before the show, about a week before, half of the announcements are out there, whether they've been intentionally leaked, as, you know, conspiracy people will say, or whether they've actually just been leaked by some knobhead who's got hold of some art from Game and has gone, oh, look at this. Like, just fuck off. Just, can you not wait just a week? Let's just have our wonderful gaming weekend of magic, and then we can all say, oh yeah, I knew about this last week. Look, why have you got to be that dick that puts the picture up first? Like, when the Xbox One X was being announced, I hopped on Twitter, and like 2 minutes before it appeared, some just attention-grabbing douche nozzle put up a picture of what would be the One X going, oh, I'm going to post this now, lol, they can't get me. Like, don't be a dick. That's just like, hey, give me some E-fame, please.
I think
drives me crazy. Drives me so crazy.
Sorry, on you go, CJ.
Mr. Carter, don't you dismiss me out of hand or spur me like a rabid dog. I like the look of this a great deal.
No, I don't mean that. I just mean that the Space Monkey program is clearly designed for people who are long-standing fans of the series. That's not to say that anyone can sign up, obviously, but
I might play the original game.
And then you can be a fan of the series, then you're allowed.
But I'll say if that trailer was striking a tone as to what the city would be like, which just even from there looked like a place that I'd want to adventure in. I like kind of the Indian overtones and just the militaristic, the very kind of French comic book sort of feel. The metal hurlant sort of feel that's there. I love the beautiful sort of emotional tone towards the end. The ship sort of firing up engines like they were switching bars on a gas fire, and then that really kind of beautiful Disney swirl on the clouds as it went. I've watched this trailer a lot, and I showed it to my friend as well, who's not into games but is very much into sci-fi, so it's fun to show him stuff like Anthem and this, and sort of see how the design in the world and stuff kind of play off his own sort of admiration for that kind of stuff. But this looks really good. I've watched this trailer a great deal.
No, I absolutely don't mean to neglect your right to want to or desire to want to sign up for Space Monkey program.
Thank you, James.
I just meant that obviously primarily the people that are going to be signing up for the Space Monkey program, one assumes, and maybe that's my presumption biting me right on the backside, possibly it's going to skew heavily in favour of people who played the game previously and already have a long-standing desire for a sequel, not just based on the trailer, which is perfectly fine as well, obviously, but
so not primarily or primately.
Primately, indeed.
Because it's so dumb.
I would say if you're going back to play the first one, and I'll defer to Paddy if he wants to correct me on this, don't expect it to look like or necessarily evoke the same atmosphere as this trailer does. Obviously, it's a game from
15 years ago.
Yeah, 2002. Yeah,
it's an old game.
And looks very much like a GameCube PS2 game of the era, and
I'm not Jim Ryan. I like old games.
You can play you can get a hold of either the PS3. I think Xbox 360 had a HD remake of it as well.
Yeah, had a very good HD remake. That's how I played it first time round. Yeah,
it's a very good HD remake, and I've kind of played it twice.
Yeah, that's what I've got.
Yeah, that's the one you play then.
As you say, CJ, Xbox One backwards compatible as well.
Yep. On Games with Gold not too long ago, as I understand it. But some people took the swearing in this badly.
Swearing,
yeah.
That's fine. I'm sure there was swearing in the. I'm sure there was swearing, a little bit of it, not much.
I don't know if there was, but I think it does fit the aesthetic that they're going for. That grimy kind of.
Inhumanoids.
And I agree with your note, CJ, that they've kind of done that culture blending thing that happens with a lot of kind of genre, futuristic or sci-fi stuff.
The music was fantastic in that trailer. The way it went from kind of the real urban sort of multicultural feel to that beautiful string music towards the end. Very evocative, indeed.
No, they definitely do present it as something where the cultures that we probably still think of as disparate have started to merge, and you start to see kind of bilingual signage and stuff like that, and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, the swearing did get noticed. I didn't. This is another one of those where I didn't notice it during watching the trailer. Maybe I was just so Paddy in terms of my reaction to it and just kind of bowled over by the whole notion of it. I didn't pay attention.
See, my initial reaction when it started, I was like, Jay Taylor's going to be all over this like it's made of ham. Knowing Jay's tastes.
So I was surprised. I found myself that I didn't hate the guy, like the monkey guy, like that kind of geezer kind of like. How can I put it? He was kind of cool. And usually I hate the character that they designate as the cool one, but I really liked him.
Yeah, he was quite nerdy as well when he got back to the ship, and he was just kind of walking and like with sort of a half trot, but also really drinking in the way that people were reacting, like kissing his guns and stuff. Muscly guns, monkey muscly guns.
Complete dick. But yeah, no, like. I see. As far as the Space Monkey program goes, I've got on the website now. It looks like a forum, which is strange.
That's what Space Monkeys are.
Forums.
You know nothing, Ginger Snow.
So here's the thing. So while they say it's about feedback and improving, like maybe asking for community help on things, I don't want that. Like for me, Beyond Good and Evil was a really well designed world, and it was coherent and everything fitted together, and it felt like a place.
Yeah.
Like it felt like a place, and it didn't feel like there was nothing that was jarring. Everything that belonged there. Even the strange. What was it like? The weird air hockey game you can play in a bar with someone. Like that felt like it belonged in the world. The weird hoverboat racing. It belonged. Like I don't know if I'd want people putting their own content in because it'll just be fucking memes, won't it?
I mean, I don't get the impression this is going to be people putting their own content in necessarily, but it's this. The spectrum could run from, is it just they give us 5 designs for a character's outfit and they take into account how people in the program vote? Is this just a way to get to vote on stuff and they'll take it into account, but if they feel strongly about it, they'll override that decision? Or is it, I'm going to submit a level design, and I assume a bit like submitting scripts to a TV show, they're just not going to do that, although obviously they can run the program how they choose. But I'd like to think this was more towards the what do you think of, can we have some feedback on this thing we are creating, rather than can every Space Monkey, Tom, Dick and Harry submit to us their designs of. and we'll choose the best one and stick it in the game. Because I like to think not that communities can't do amazing things. We've all seen level creation, art creation in something like Forza or any other number of games, Little Big Planet and whatnot, that is amazing. But the other side of it is, if I'm in that program and I get to see all of this stuff, how much of the game have I then seen before playing the game? And I'd like to sit down for the first time and play the sequel to a game I have enjoyed greatly, and want to see where it goes next. I'd like to see a lot of that for the first time and be surprised. And
avoiding Dark Souls trailers, isn't it? It's avoiding Dark Souls trailers. Like, I don't care. I just want to see it when it's done.
Yeah, at a certain point, they've given me a flavour for the sort of aesthetic and atmosphere they're going for. And at a certain point, I know I want to play this, so I kind of don't want to see anything more on it now. And so why would it be part of the Space Monkey program? And that's just my take. This is clearly experimenting with something a bit more community focused, and it may well just be that they want to maintain excitement and have a kind of rolling aspect to getting fans excited for different stuff without having to necessarily show more of the game. And that's fine. I hope this works, but I don't necessarily feel the need to sign up.
Let me give you a reason why asking the fans what they think is best is a bad idea. Okay. This is a very personal one to my heart. So Tekken Revolution came out a few years ago, which was a free-to-play version of Tekken, Tekken 5/6. It had a few of the characters from it, and you could just jump on and play a few matches a day and have a bit of fun. There was a vote, from 10 scrapped concepts from the past. 10 odd concepts. I thought, let's put one of these weird characters in the game. So this has proven that people can't vote for shit, because there was a bunch of cool characters in here. There was one of them is described as average, run-of-the-mill old man. He's not a martial artist. He's pretty weak. That sounds kind of fun. A giant praying mantis in Tekken, because apparently there was a bug that made all the characters move backwards by accident and it looked all mantis-y, so they decided to try and make it as a character. We could have had that. We could have had a female Paul Phoenix as well. We could have had that. We could have had a zombie bride. That would have been fun. We could have had a sexy female Tekken Force character. Ooh. We could have had a goddamn salmon. The character would have been a salmon that flopped around and the kick buttons would release eggs. We could have had that, but we got sexy vampire girl. People can't vote for shit. We could have had a fish.
You don't need to point to Tekken to show people can't vote for shit.
True, but that's the closest one to my heart. I'm sure there may be other examples.
There may be other political examples of governments around the world that show that people can't vote for shit.
I suppose in the world they did vote for the fish, didn't they?
Paddy, shut up about your non-Ubisoft fighting game. What did you think of the show?
I thought this was a really, really good show.
And you, James?
Wow, thanks. I thought generally this was probably the strongest, most consistent show of the week. I thought I got a lot out of the show. I enjoyed it. It clipped along at a decent pace. Lots of surprises. A lot of the stuff they showed that I knew about. They showed something new that looked interesting. I think that Mario Rabbids XCOM game looks mad. It's managed to get me a little bit excited for the crew again, a bit more of the South Park game. I mean, that Skull and Bones game, I'm probably not going to buy it, but it's a cool idea. And then Beyond Good and Evil at the end that just literally put me on the floor for about 10 minutes, just not able to talk. Well done, Ubisoft. It wasn't quite as mental, and I do think we missed Aisha Tyler. I think she does lend a certain air to proceedings, but they did have a lot of the devs out there explaining their games bit by bit, and it felt like they all gave a shit about their games.
It was they all came warm, out, wasn't it? And none of them sort of seemed like they were terrified to be up there on the spot and public speaking, which is always it's always a worry, especially in contrast to how professional Aisha Tyler was.
It's better than just getting on some YouTuber who doesn't know how to speak words at a camera.
Sorry about that. I thought it paced along at a decent clip. It was it was warm. It was fun. There was lots of surprises. There was stuff that wasn't for me. It washed over me a little bit the first time I watched it, and I couldn't quite understand why people were bouncing up and down. But I kind of got it when I was doing a bit more prep for tonight's show. I noticed a few more of the nuances, as they say in the offices of Ubisoft. James?
Yeah,
Carter?
I
From Cane and Rinse? Oh my god, that's my name.
Sounds
Oh
like
my
my
god,
name.
I've dropped the accent. Oh.
And the Retrofit podcast.
Yeah, I have to agree. I think this was my favourite of the shows this week. It had an equal degree of variety and a bit of something for everyone, I thought, as did Sony or Microsoft, which I thought with the entire E3 collection of presentations was pretty good at. And it's kind of awful that I'm saying this on the first year in several that Aisha Tyler hasn't been there, because I've really enjoyed her input, and I kind of do wish she'd been there this year. But what still came through, as it did last year, is Ubisoft are able to present themselves, presumably, and I'm not doubting that that's the case, as a big family that all want to work together, produce games that are fun, that excite people and excite them. And that came across. It was I think, of the shows, the most traditional in terms of actually having people up there to present their games, risk of something going wrong, not minimizing that risk. And that includes the games they showed, as well as the way they showed them. And I really liked that. This was fun from start to finish for me, and probably had the biggest percentage of games that I am likely to end up playing versus any of the other shows. Not necessarily the most, because obviously they can't show as many games as Sony or Microsoft can, but percentage-wise, yeah, stuff to get excited about aplenty, I thought.
Do you think having the warmth of this family there and cuddly, lovely Grandpa Eve sort of coming out for the first time sort of ever, do you think there was almost a conceit there that they wanted to get people on side with regards to that family and cuddly Grandpa Eve in, with, is it Vivendi that are trying to buy up more and more shares and are trying to sort of groove?
So we mentioned this last year, didn't we? Because that was the rumour going around then, more strongly, I think, than there was this year, was that, Activision were looking to swoop in. Ubisoft were seen as an IP-rich and high profit potential company that could be potentially, snapped up by an Activision or a Vivendi or whoever. And that was the threat last year. And towards the end, Eve had a very kind of heartfelt end with a lot of people coming on stage last year as well. And I think we did mention that. I can't imagine we wouldn't have. But I didn't listen back to last year's shows.
Dare you?
Beforehand. Disgusting, frankly. Ashamed of myself. And I felt the same again this year. I hadn't heard any further rumours after last year that Ubisoft were ripe for the buying or taking, as it were. So for me, this year felt a lot more like, no, that's just the face we want to put on our company now. Irrespective of whether or not we need to show solidarity, this is our company. We all want to come out and cry a little bit, smile a little bit, and be one together like a family does. But certainly it makes sense if there are still rumblings that Ubisoft might be bought by someone and they're not interested in that. Then yeah, absolutely it makes sense to continue to show that they're not just a business, they're a group of people making stuff that hopefully, gamers want to play as much as Ubisoft want to make. And I've been the first to criticise Ubisoft for what I see as some of the structural repetition in some of their action games particularly. And as I say, Far Cry 3 kind of put me off the series for some of that stuff it adopted from Assassin's Creed that I'd already by that point kind of had my fill of. But I can't deny that they are going about making sure that, Crew 2, Assassin's Creed's Origins looks like they are learning lessons. They are taking on board the feedback they're given. They're trying to better themselves. They're sticking with the crew. They're sticking with Steep. More power to them. Absolutely.
I hope if you are a fan of Eve's gang, if you're an older fan, or perhaps you're all the young oobs you've enjoyed our show, and because
Christ.
we've had a good natter. I did say at the start of the show that it was episode 46. It's not. It's episode 47. I think I'm just trying to blank out the PC show. But we will see you very, very soon. Is it your lot next, Pat? Is it the Sony Sleepy Boys?
It's the Soinies. Yeah.
So very neat.
Yeah. Got a lot to bring to this one. Looking forward to the chat.
That sounds ominous.
No, not at all. Not at all.
It's going to be different than usual.
No, I'm looking forward to this because I've got some good stuff for it. Anyway, cheer bye, one and all. Goodbye.
Farewell.
Au revoir.
Oh, because it's French, because Ubisoft.
Such a